Hello, everyone. Before this episode begins, I wanted to give a quick content warning, which I know I don't normally do, but there's a story told in this episode involving an injury that one of our guests' friends received. We're talking about skateboarding in this episode, so of course there's some shenanigans happening, and there's one that gets a little gnarly. So I just wanted to give a quick warning that you'll know when it's coming because we lead up to it, but just want to make sure anyone who might be a little squeamish is aware there is a slight moment in this episode. So yeah, with that out of the way, on with the show. On this episode of Still Loading, here I am getting older all the time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today on the show, this game, man, it's been a long time coming. This is one of my personal favorite games of all time, and joining me today to discuss the iconic, the legendary Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I have two wonderful guests for you today. First off, Dave from Remember 64. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well and very excited to be talking about a game that also has a ton of nostalgia in my heart. I'll tell you that much right now.
I can't. Nostalgia is like, I always tell my guests, you don't have to necessarily be knowledgeable about games or be, know the history of all that stuff. I usually try to cover the history as much as I can on my own part. Just have nostalgia for it. Be passionate about the game. And that's all I asked for. But Dave and I are not alone. For another first-time guest on the show, Jiggy from the YouTube channel Jiggy Lookback. Jiggy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal. I love having a chance to talk about Tony Hawk, which introduced me to my love of skater punk music.
Yes. Oh, actually, that's a very good point. It probably did for me as well, actually. Yeah.
That is a running theme with a lot of stuff with this game. There's an amazing documentary. Have you guys seen the documentary?
Yes.
Pretending I'm Superman.
Yes.
No, excellent. I don't think I have.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, for listeners and for you, Jiggy, you can watch it completely free on Tubi. It's completely free. You can go ahead and check it out. It's a really great documentary all about the making of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And one of the things they touch on is the soundtrack, of course, this iconic soundtrack with so many different bands in it. And almost every one of them, to a T, Bad Religion, Goldfinger, they all say they were moderately successful, and then Tony Hawk just put them in a stratosphere. Like, it shot them to the moon. And it's funny, you guys at least all seem to really resonate with that soundtrack. I enjoyed the music, but literally it wasn't until this is going to make me sound so dumb. I didn't know who any of the musicians were until when COVID hit in 2020. Goldfinger did a quarantined version of Superman or whatever that's the name of the song, right?
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, this is the band from Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
because maybe this is sacrilege and it's ruining my music cred. I'm not a fan of 90s rock in general.
That's all I listen to.
I don't enjoy it. It is not my favorite in the slightest. I'm not going to pan it. I'm not going to bash it because I know everyone else, so many people love it. It's just not my cup of tea. I have a lot of fiery hot takes about it that I say semi-jokingly, and I'm going to save them all. If you're curious about them, too fucking bad, because I'm not going to say them anyway, even if you ask. But so let's dive into this, though. As we are wont to do, as I steal that phrase from my buddies over at Retro Hangover, I'm going to ask my two esteemed guests here what their experience was with Tony Hawk. The game was developed by Neversoft. It came out in 1999. Actually, kind of fittingly that we actually recorded an episode just before this on a different game, which also came out in 1999. Kind of fitting, actually. Anyway, it came out in 1999 by Neversoft, and I have a whole bunch of fun facts to go into. But before we get to those fun facts, like I said, I want to hear from my guests. So, Jiggy, we're going to start with you. What are your earliest memories with this game, and just kind of what's some of your nostalgia around it?
All right. Well, I would say, gosh, I would say I have in general the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, like not even limiting to one. I think I spent honestly the most time playing three. I played them all
Okay.
on the 64. But I loved. So it's interesting because I don't. Was there a skating game before this? I don't know.
There
But
was Sega had one in the arcade, which I'm blanking on the name. There's a
okay.
handful of other, like there's tons, like Skater Die on the NES.
Yep, Skater Dies.
There
I was
was
gonna say, yeah.
there's not a lot of good ones, I would say. There's some average at best ones.
It's one of those things that I don't think I would have ever thought I would have liked to play. You know what I
Yes,
mean? And
I get you.
I actually I did grow up kind of a skater. I had a skateboard. I would skate around town. My friends and I
Were
would go
you
to
a
the skate
skater
park.
boy?
I
Did
wasn't gonna
someone
say
say
it,
see you
but
later, boy?
I definitely was a skater boy, and a lot of people said "see you later, boy." But it's a great game, and I would say I didn't play it a lot single player, which I did play it single player, but most of the time I played multiplayer. This is one of those games that I broke out at parties when I had my friends over,
Okay.
or sleepovers, I should say, and we would play for hours on end horse and just do
Okay.
multiplayer. It was so much fun. And between that and the soundtrack, which gave me my like love of this style of music, skater, emo punk, like that has carried me through my life. I still listen to that. That's what I like.
Mhm.
It's in general just a good time and a lot of fun. And it's one of those games I felt like I could just pick up and play and have fun for a little while and then be like, all right, I'm gonna play something else. It was never too serious for me, but I love that it wasn't too serious for me. And it had some great levels and everything, which I'm sure we'll get into, but that's kind of my history of it.
Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I actually the whole same sort of thing. The whole series, I think for me has took over a lot of time over at my friend's place. I mostly played this on PlayStation. I did not have a PS1, but this one household did, and I played a lot of PlayStation, like early Final Fantasy stuff. I first got experience in this household. We played a lot of this. We played Siphon Filter, things like that, where we would just play like a couple stages every once in a while, and then I'd go home, and then we'd come back. I'd come back the next weekend or Wednesday after school and Thursday, and we would just play this. But we actually, for 1 and 2, I think 2 is probably the one for a lot of people, maybe that they played more often because it just grew and grew in popularity in some ways. But the first one, which I think I kind of, in my memory, because I haven't played either of these in a while, I thought that a lot of the stages in this were from 2, but I actually think that I had more experience playing 1 than I did with 2, because I'm playing through these stages and I'm doing some of these, levels, playing it on the 64 this time, and which previously I don't think I did play on the 64, going, oh my God, I remember what to do here. I remember what to do here. I remember, like, I knew where some of the tapes were. I knew where some of the letters were.
Yeah.
I don't know how I remembered any of that stuff, but I did. So a lot of it was sometimes multiplayer, like Jiggy said. I think we did that sometimes, but most of the time it was we handed the controller to each other, just trying to complete on each run. The runs are pretty short, which is why that's sort of easier to do.
Yeah, they're like 2 minutes per run.
Exactly, which feels like super short sometimes and so unfair sometimes. But because the game is so fast and because you can do a lot of cool things with it and stuff, it makes sense and does work and everything. But the music hits home when some of the songs were playing. I'm like, here's this, and some of the songs would play on particular levels. Like School was always a stage that we played a lot of.
School was sick.
Yeah, but for some reason I can't remember which song played, last week when I was playing that stage, and I was like, oh yeah, like I remembered it perfectly. Somehow I was sitting in my buddy's basement and we were playing this stage trying to get all the tapes and trying to get the high score. So I have a lot of love for this, and some muscle memory too, even though I was playing it on a different console, which is really odd. It was like, how did I just know how to do a kickflip or a melon or something like that? Yeah, those are basic tricks, but how did I remember to do that on a controller I don't think I ever played this game on?
I think that's a testament to the design of the game, because they took such a simple concept where, so for the N64, C down is ollie, and if you hold it, then you can just move fast. You don't have to kick it. It breaks the laws of physics a little bit, where like you can just hold C down, and without kicking the board or like kicking the ground to like propel yourself, you can just hover along pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then you press it to ollie. Left is like kick tricks. Right is grab tricks. To C left is kick tricks. C right is grab tricks, and then C up is grinding tricks. And it's a really simple thing of just taking the entire move set of skateboarding and simplifying it down to just 3 buttons, and then depending on the angle that you put the joystick or the D-pad determines which move you're going to do. So I always remember, like Japan Air was always like you would do a grab technique and you would hit up. And then the Madonna was top left. And then like a method or something like that was top. It was just pure left, stuff like that. Yeah. So that controls game translates really well to other consoles, because you could do the exact same thing on the PlayStation. Instead of C down, it's X. Instead of C left, it's, I guess that's square. Instead of C right, it's circle. Instead of C up, it's triangle. And the same when it eventually makes its way to Xbox, because of those 4 button layouts. It's a really easy control scheme to translate to other systems. There's not a lot of work that Neversoft really had to do to get it to work on other systems. And this game was fucking ported to everything. PlayStation, it originated on PlayStation, but N64, that's how I experienced it mostly. That's where most of my nostalgia comes from. Dreamcast, the N-Gage, it was on the N-Gage, the Nokia N-Gage.
Stuff was on N-Gage? Like, jeez, I don't know anyone that had those, but yeah, anyways.
But it didn't even get ported until 2003 to the N-Gage. I also had like a 2D-ish version on the Game Boy Color, which I have
that game.
Everyone says it's actually not bad. Like the port of Tony Hawk for the handhelds are not awful.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that too is I should have played that too. I should have given that a little spin, but because I still have the cartridge in my other room here. But I think we got it because I don't know why we never got it for N64, but I think my brother bought it or something. We're like, oh, it's Tony Hawk. We love Tony Hawk. Let's play Tony Hawk on our Game Boy. Why not? We each had a Game Boy Color, so it was you can kind of swap games if you wanted to and stuff. And what's cool about it, now that I'm sort of remembering it a little bit more, is that in a way it's kind of like it's sort of like a very simplified version of the game, but I don't know if you guys have played the Ollie Ollie games at all.
I've never played them, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it kind of feels like that, where it's an arcadey 2D skateboarding game. Very unrealistic and whatever, but you have to time your tricks, and it's very fast. You can do all these really cool things. Very flashy, cool music, just like this, fun characters, all that. And the moves are all real moves. You're not doing like triple backflips or any of that kind of stuff. You do have to sort of land your tricks and everything. And the Game Boy Color game is kind of like that, but in the Tony Hawk world. So you're playing with Tony Hawk, you're playing with Bam or whoever. So I had a lot of experience playing on PlayStation and on the Game Boy. I was like, I completely forgot about that. I should go play it, and I didn't. Sorry guys, I didn't complete my homework.
It's all good. We're only really focusing on the home console stuff right now, because that's all the nostalgia I really had for it. Though I know people do like the Game Boy Color version of this. I actually played Tony Hawk 2 on the GBA and remember enjoying it.
Okay.
Surprisingly, but I'd have to. It was on my cousin's like GBA or whatever. For myself, with my own nostalgia and experience with this game, I got it when I was a kid. I was obsessed with it. I, like many kids, played this game, was like, I want to try skateboarding. Never really seriously tried it though. I got too frustrated not understanding how the ollie works in real life.
I'm so bad at it too. I hear you.
I can't skateboard for the fucking life of me. It's awful. but I tried it. In fact, so we didn't grow up like, I mean, we definitely weren't like poor, but we didn't grow up well off. So my parents never bought me a skateboard. My uncle is a carpenter, and he made me one, but it was like the old style of, you know how like every skateboard, it has like the lips on both sides,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
bow up. His was a triangle on the front half, and it's almost like a speed board, almost kind of a
Yep.
thing. I think that's what they're called. And
Like
then
longboard.
the
Like it was
tail,
like a
the
yeah,
tail
yeah,
at the
yeah.
back end.
That's awesome.
And I that was, and then like we cut out like lightning bolts of grip tape, because I was like 10 years old. I'm like, this is cool, man. Lightning bolts are so cool. And,
I'm so
stick that
fast.
shit.
Hell yeah.
So rad.
I'm Sonic.
That's like, you ever watch Scrubs?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a great moment where like Turk's like, JD, I need your help. He's like, I'm busy. He's like, you're drawing lightning bolts in your Nikes, so I can get to my patients faster.
Exactly.
It was kind of like that, but with skateboards. So this game really sunk its teeth into me, so much so this was one of the first games that I can remember where I feel like maybe not every kid, but a lot of kids had that one game where they started trying to catalog the information in the game outside of it. So, for example, every time you do a gap, or you do a special grind, or you do like you jump off a ramp and grind on something, and then jump off another ramp, and it had that blue text that came up because it was like a special move type of thing, a special gap or a special trick. Now, it wasn't a trick; it was like a special, like
it was almost like almost like multiplied your points or something like that. It was like a special spot.
It gave you extra points, and it was like an obstacle. It was like
it was like a special sequence in this area.
That's a good way to describe it. A special sequence of obstacles, or jumps or whatnot. And I started, like, I would play the game until I discovered one, and I had a binder, and I would write down the name of it, and then I would try to write like where it is in the level and that type of stuff, and describe it. I don't have it anymore. I kind of wish I did, because I don't remember getting very far in it. But I would do that. And I remember going to, because we didn't have reliable internet at the time, I went to my public library so I could print out cheat codes, because I didn't, like, before I got good at this game, I would, you can unlock all the different skateboarders that you couldn't normally. There's like, if you get all the tapes in the game, you get Officer Dick. There's also, I think there's like another hidden skater, but if you got Officer Dick, you couldn't get her, or vice versa, or something like that.
Private Carrera. That's what unlockable using a cheat code. That's what it says. Yeah.
Private Carrera. That's what it was. So I would go to my local library. I remember there was a friend of mine named Eric, who, I don't know how we were ever really friends, and it's no offense to him, but like, we were so different, and it's just one of those things. There's one of those friendships as a little kid where you get along really well, and then as you start to age, you realize how different you actually are, type of thing. So we never had a falling out. We just kind of drifted apart. But I remember meeting him because he lived close to the local library, and all I wanted to do, he just wanted to go out and play with his friends, like outside, like a normal kid. I was the one like, no, I need to print out cheat codes for Tony Hawk. That's all I wanted to do. I remember going to the library numerous times, because I'm like, I would scour the internet trying to see if, like, maybe there's a cheat code I don't know about yet.
Right.
And obviously, it was probably pretty even close to back then. Like, once you get them all from the one site, you pretty much have all of them. You might find one site that has like one semi-obscure one that the main one you found didn't. But and I was bummed that no website cataloged all of the blue moves, all of the blue obstacles that we were talking about before. So I started trying to catalog all of those in a binder, as well as the special moves for each character.
Damn.
And I didn't get very far. It was a lot. It's a lot. I think I did the first like 2 or 3 levels, but I loved it. And I got to the point in the game, even now as an adult, like, I'm still, I don't think I could win in a competition or anything, but like, I'm pretty good at this original game. Like, I was when I was playing it in preparation for this, I didn't even, I'll be honest, I didn't touch the game in preparation for this until a half an hour before we had to push back a recording, but like a half an hour before or an hour, excuse me, before we started recording, I got to the second to last competition in under 15 minutes. I just
Oh,
burned
Wow.
through. I because when I was a kid, I would practice, especially the first three levels a lot, the
yeah.
warehouse, the school, and the mall, to
Mhm.
see if I could get all five tapes in a single run. And if I actually was able to at one point in time do all five tapes in the mall, sorry, the warehouse, the school, the mall, get gold on my first attempts in each of the
Jeez.
competitions in Chicago, the fourth level, and then go to the fifth level, and I got all five tapes in Minneapolis on the first try.
Holy,
Um,
dude.
so you can get underneath. So if you get good enough, you can do all that in like arguably under 10 minutes because the levels are only 2 minutes. So I'm
Right.
beating each level in under 2 minutes, and then moving on. Getting to the sixth level though, Phoenix Downhill Jam,
Mm.
Mm.
can't do it. I haven't been able to figure out a route that I can take because there's too much backtracking that you have to do because some paths will take you to getting the valves and other paths, but when you take that path you miss out on one of the
Yeah, you
skate
can't really
levers.
backtrack, right? So, yeah.
Not easily. I mean, you can, but that kills time. So
Yeah.
it's like you
Yeah.
have to figure out the optimal route. I'm sure speedrunners figured this out already, but
Yeah.
um,
Glitch through a
that is,
wall.
that is a long-winded reminiscing of my experience with this game. It's one of those things when I was preparing for the episode, I was like, there's certain games that I feel like when I see them, I'm like, I don't want to talk about this because I feel like not that it ruins my nerd cred, but it's like, it almost feels like, you know how like some people are like, oh, do you play video games? Yeah, I play Call of Duty. It's kind of got that.
Yeah.
To me, it had that vibe of it. And
I hate
I
it.
don't think that anymore, but
Yeah.
I think that's why I've held off on covering this game for so long.
Really
But
interesting.
yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying that was good logic. Sometimes I'm dumb.
But it was a logic. It wasn't the point, but it was a point that was made. Yeah.
Not a good
It,
one.
with its popularity kind of skyrocketed back up because they released the remaster
One
or
and two.
or not even remaster, it's a total remake of 1 and 2,
yeah.
which is pretty cool, which by the way, I just wanted to say Officer Dick in the remake is Jack Black. Kind of awesome.
Is he?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So I
It's pretty
actually
funny.
completely forgot as I was looking up some of these stages as you guys were talking before. I actually own the remake of 1 and 2, and I played it a few years ago. That's why I remember these levels.
Yeah.
And I have it on I think I got it on Epic on PC, and you just play it with an Xbox controller or PlayStation or whatever. Now that that's sort of like reigniting in my mind, they did a fantastic job because I remember really
It feels the same.
it feels great. It, like you're saying, Josh, where you were sort of going from like the stages and trying to do it in all in one run and all those types of things. Everything's laid out pretty much the same way,
yeah.
but it's very polished. The music is obviously still really great. It looks amazing. It plays great. I mean, there's more customization in it. There's more unlockables. There's stuff like Jack Black in it, like all those types of things. Now it's probably super cheap, and you can probably get it. If it's cool to go back, but if you wanted to play the new one, I think you're going to get a really good experience and probably have some nostalgia, even just playing the newer versions of 1 and 2. I think it's still there.
I might actually buy that because recently we usually used my PlayStation 4 as our streaming device downstairs. We recently bought a Fire Stick, so now I don't have to worry about that anymore, and I can bring my PlayStation 4 controller up here to plug it into my computer
Yep.
because it just syncs up like immediately. Every other, even like the Xbox One controller, it doesn't sync up immediately, and it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Oh, see, my PS5 one has given me trouble, but my Xbox ones never give me an issue. That's interesting.
So interesting. Xbox
Yeah.
always gives me grief with it.
Hmm.
Now, some history on the development
Yes.
of the game. The documentary that I talked about, it does a really good job of kind of highlighting a lot of the context around skating at the time this game came out. It talks about the history of skateboarding, not necessarily in terms of the evolution of moves, you know, one thing to another, but it more or less the rising and falling of popularity of it. You know, it was rising in popularity in the 70s and kind of crashed a little bit in 81, and then started coming back up again in the mid 80s, and then crashed again around 89, 90. And then street skating became super popular in the early 90s, and it started coming back up until 95. You have the X Games. And Tony Hawk, throughout all of this, he had obviously been in the scene for quite some time. He's one of the original stars. It's not just like he was like the original star of the sport, like, or it's not like he was like a new star, excuse me, of the sport, and there was like original OGs before him. He is as close to the OG as you can get. I'm sure there are others that skateboard. I'm sure he would say, and other skateboard fans, I apologize if you know all the better names from before him, but like, you know, I'm thinking like in terms of hockey, like Wayne Gretzky is the great one, but there was a bunch like Gordie Howe was like the OG before him, you know, like there's always Wayne Gretzky to me kind of feels like the Gordie Howe in this situation. Granted, I know very little of skateboarding, so if I'm wrong, please be nice.
I'll say to that, because they're also referencing the documentary, the other documentary which just follows Tony Hawk, that came out I think in 2022 or 21, called Until the Wheels Fall Off, shows him when he was younger, talks to a lot of the older guys that were before him, a lot of the guys that skated with him. It's a really, really good documentary. I don't want to go off too much of a tangent.
No,
and stuff,
but send a link to it though.
Yeah, I will.
Or like where you can find it.
Yeah, I think it's an HBO documentary too, which for the most part those are always very good as well. Yeah. But it was kind of cool because it kind of relates to sort of like my memory of the game as well, where I'm watching this and they have a lot of his X game footage in it, and him doing the 900 and all that kind of stuff. Like they build up that 900. I'm not sure if you were about to get to this, so I feel bad, but no,
it's okay. Go for it.
No, but that 900 moment, they really sort of milk it for like 15 minutes in this documentary, which is kind of, you know, cool that they're really showing you that this is an iconic moment that happened in the X Games. This is why skating was big. This is why, you know, the games were what they were, why it was all part of this whole sort of surge of what it was. And I'm sitting there with my wife who has never seen this done before. And she understands what he's trying to do, and it's just, you know, he's talking over it, saying like why it was so tough and whatever. And, you know, and I'm sitting there going like, oh my God, I just want to play one of these games again. Oh my God, this documentary, this moment, all of this stuff, him trying to land this trick. I watched that live. I remember it being a thing, and I was so into it because we were playing these games and because we were playing specifically more the first and second one. But I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like I had this like crazy shot in the gut nostalgic feel watching that footage, and I never thought I would get that because, like you guys said, sure, you know, maybe you could dabble in skating, maybe you had some friends that were, sure, we played the hell out of these video games, but could I do any of this? Was I like a skater kid or anything? No, I wasn't. But somehow, because of the video games, these moments watching X Games or other things like it,
you felt a part of them.
Yeah, it meant something to me.
Yeah, something.
And it's because of the video game. It's wild, and fantastic documentary. Until the Wheels Fall Off. I highly recommend it for anyone that has just even history with just the games, never mind skating at all otherwise. Anyways,
well, and that 900 moment wasn't what's interesting about it is that at the time Tony Hawk did the 900, it was the same year the first game came out in 1999 is when he first did the 900, right? And he did it 3 months before the game launched. And some people are like, "Oh, did you time that? Like,
yeah,
how would I have done that?"
Yeah,
like
no.
games. I was working on the game for 2 years. Like, and what am I gonna do? Like, are they gonna put the 900 in the game when I never actually did it? Like, there's no chance. There was not like a guarantee that I could do it. Type of. I'm paraphrasing for him in the documentary,
but literally no one in history had ever done it. So what are they gonna do? Just pretend that you know, like, come on.
Well, it was just this serendipitous type of moment where
Yeah.
he got it 3 months before the game came out. He called the developers the next day. He's like, "Hey, is there any way you can put this in?" And they're like, "We're already on it." They were already trying to get it in.
That's sick.
Some other quick things. So when Tony got signed onto this, he had actually been trying to get into games for quite some time. He had a meeting with Nintendo. He had a call with Nintendo that ultimately didn't come to any sort of fruition, but it never really came to be. So he gets a call from Activision, who's been working on this skateboarding title with the developer called Neversoft. Neversoft originated as kind of like this outcropping of another development company called Malibu Interactive, which was a subsidiary of a comic book label named Malibu Comics. So the creators of Neversoft, who made Tony Hawk, came from that studio, and their first actual game before they even got to Tony Hawk was a Sega Saturn title based off of the property Skeleton Warriors from Playmates. So it was based off toys. It was based, yeah.
That's really interesting.
I've found that crazy, like, wild.
I
And
didn't know that. I'm looking at it right now. I had no idea. That's so cool.
well, they then went on to work on 2 different games, both of which got canceled. So, and it left them in pretty dire straits because they were big budget titles. One of which was going to be called Big Guns, and it was like a mech fighter, like a third person mech shooter game. And it ended up getting changed so much by the publisher that it ended up being like an anime girl running around. I don't know exactly I forget exactly what it was, but it never came out. So because of that, and another game that they were working on, I forget the other game was, that just got canceled by the publisher, they were in pretty dire straits. And that's when Activision comes in. One of the few times Activision has done something good in recent memory. Well, this is also 20 plus years ago. So
Yeah. Well, who knows?
yeah. But so Activision comes in and gets them to, they liked the Big Guns engine. So they got them to work on this game called Apocalypse, which had Bruce Willis in it, and like the likeness of Bruce Willis and his motion capture. I don't know if he did mocap, but he did his voice. He lent his voice and his likeness, and it's a third person kind of action shooter game. And that did get released to, I think it was moderately popular. I don't know how good it is now. I haven't really played it, but that ties in directly because not only did that start the relationship with Activision, when the time they were developing Apocalypse, Activision was like, "Hey, we want you to work on the skateboarding title too," which obviously ended up being Tony Hawk. When Tony first came to see the game, first came to a developer meeting so he could see like a demo build of it, like pre-beta, pre-alpha, early into development. The one dev was saying in the documentary that Tony looked bored as hell with all the suits talking about, like, look at all these fiscal numbers and money and you can be rich and and he was just, his eyes were like, were glazing over. He was exhausted. But when they showed the demo, he loved it. He knew exactly, like, he wasn't trying to, he even says he's not trying to go for realism, but he wants something to have the feel of what skateboarding feels like, not necessarily it actually is. And the version he saw of it was very different from the final product. It involved Bruce Willis with a gun strapped to his back, skateboarding down what kind of looks like the Phoenix Downhill Jam, but it was like a desert type of thing.
Can I tell you, they did a great job capturing the feel of what actual skateboarding feels like, because you think it's Tony Hawk Pro Skater, you think you're like, you're gonna be amazing, but really it's like if you've ever seen Jackass, that's skateboarding. That's the real deal. And I could tell you a lot of stories of just wiping out and accidents and I got a funny one I'll share later, but continue. I just wanted to throw that in. They did a great job.
Well, I think that's like kind of what the game, the series really, or games like this, because there was a BMX game that came out around this time as well for PlayStation.
BMX.
Yes. BMX, yeah, exactly. So my buddy bought that because we were so into Tony Hawk and we just needed to play a game like this. And it was kind of the same idea, had very similar type of mechanics and everything. But even though I could never land any trick ever, or probably never stand for more than 7 seconds on a skateboard when it's moving ever, I felt like I was doing these moves, but it always felt a little bit arcadey. And there's like such a sweet spot between realism and arcade that sports games try to catch every once in a while. And somehow I think with this game, it nailed it at every trick and every turn and stuff. It's right there, I think.
And I think that they were trying to not necessarily be realistic, like I said. Like you said, it's between arcadey and realism. They're trying to, when I say the feel, it's more like the feeling of like the happiness that you feel when you see it like that.
Yeah.
You know how like when you get really good at something and like really good at something, like I played roller hockey for like a number of years, so I'm a pretty good skater. Not ice skater, roller. I'm not good at ice skating. We're good at rollerblading.
I'd be the opposite. So there you go.
I don't know what it's the grooves, man, on the ice. I can't, like, I'm not used to having to skate through other people's tracks, and that's what always like that's what always gets me with it. And in any case, neither here nor there. But with rollerblading, like it's a real, like the sensation that you feel of like exactly like when you swerve side to side and being able to stop quickly and do quick turns, stuff like that. Like I know that's not skateboarding, but in terms of like if I were to create a realistic looking rollerblading game, I would want it to give me that same sensation that I do when I get to skate, like skating backwards and all this other stuff. When I feel like that's what they were going for with Tony Hawk. It's not necessarily to be like this is realistic to skateboarding, because it's not. Tony, like when you go on a ramp on a vert, like you are glued to that y-axis, like no matter what.
Right.
As long as you get your board parallel to the same direction the ramp is going, you're fine.
You
could be up 200 feet in the air. As long as you went off that ramp initially, you're going to be glued to the y-axis, and fall damage doesn't fucking matter.
That being said, looking at Tony do the 900, that whole sequence of how many times he didn't land it, and he slides on his knees down the thing, you're like, oh, I feel it every time. I'm just like, he had some good knee pads on there.
How bad does that actually hurt to do? Like, because the way he, like, I understand landing on the knees might leave a bruise, but since he's got the shin guards, I can't imagine the brush burns were that bad, except maybe on his shins.
Probably the impact more than anything.
It'd definitely be the impact more than the sliding, especially with the guard. I mean, he's probably got some serious pads on, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I have. I mean, it's hard to say because I'm like a big pipe like that. It's smoother too. It's not like falling. Okay, I'm gonna tell this story because I'm dying to tell this story.
No, tell it.
Okay, so this is actually, I did not get injured, but it was a friend of mine. So we had one of those police like speedometer things that tell you how fast you're going when you're driving. Right, it was right in front of my house.
Here we
go. We had a sidewalk that went straight down. And naturally, we weren't on skateboards this time, thank God, because we would have died. We were actually on Razor scooters, if you remember those.
Yes.
And we took those up the hill.
And an extreme sports game.
Yes,
yeah,
that's right.
Great. Well, I don't know, the game's great, but Razor scooters are great. Mine was orange, by the way. I loved it. But I would go down this thing, and we'd be like crouching. We'd be going so freaking fast. We're setting off the speedometer, like we're going like over 20 miles an hour. Like we're going so fast. And my friend, because this is just how we were, he's like, I bet I could do a jump off this and maybe like spin it, you know? So, and then I was just like, go for it. Do it.
Hell yeah, you did. Yeah.
And so we're going, he's flying down, right? And I'm right behind him. Right? And I started wobbling like this. And I'm like, oh shit. And I jump over, and I kind of like did this thing where I was like running along a wall. Like I was like running along it, and I kept my balance. I got back on the scooter, and I like pulled over and stopped, and was like, whoa, that was close. And then I watch him, and he jumps He twists the back of it, right? It spins. He lands with his wheel like in the crack on the concrete.
Oh no.
Flips forward. His face skids. Like he slides across the concrete.
I'm
Right?
gonna put a content
And
warning
so-
on this one.
Oh, man.
His left side of his face. No, wait, right side of his face. It was the right side of his face. And it was all skid up, just like blood everywhere, right? And so I go inside and I'm like, see his dad, and I'm like, hey, he hurt himself. And he says, like,
so
what?
your son
And
is
he's like-
Two-Face.
he runs out. He's like, "Holy crap!" And he brought him in, and he had like towels on his head. And there's
Yeah.
just blood everywhere,
Oh
like
my God.
an excessive amount. But the best part was, okay, so they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go home," and so they left. And the next day, I'm just chilling in my room, probably playing Tony Hawk. To be honest, that's pretty
Right.
funny. But I'm sitting there playing, and he walks in, right? And I just see the one side of his face. He walks in totally normal. He walks in, and I'm like, "Hey, man," and he's like, and it's like his whole face is like swelled up,
Oh,
like
no.
scraped, and just like bubble. And he's like, "Sup?"
Oh,
Now that is skateboarding culture right there.
jeez. That's crazy that you guys are going that fast and that. Oh, man.
It was on little razor scooters, were just like like across the
Oh,
concrete.
We had similar things, but
terrifying.
we did it with like mountain bikes and stuff. So like there was a little bit more stability there, but like, yeah, not that bad. I don't have any stories of anyone like scraping their face on the ground at 10
That's
or
the
20 miles
worst.
an hour. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that was the
brutal.
worst injury I've ever seen somebody get, like right in
Oh,
front of me.
Jesus.
It was pretty
That is
bad.
wild. I've been lucky where all my injuries skating, rollerblading to be clear, once again, not skateboarding. The worst I think I ever got was I was rollerblading down a hill really fast, and when I tried to stop, it was just all stones, and so I tripped
Ooh.
and I like scraped up
Mhm.
my forearm pretty bad. And this is I did not get injured in this, but it could have ended so poorly. So I was at a local park, and my aunt and uncle lived literally right next door to the like you could walk from their house 10 feet in their grass, and then you're on park property, right? Like they're that close to the park. Well, there's a street hockey rink in the park, like fenced in and all that good stuff. I loved playing there. But what was cool is that when it was slow, when there was a lot of people there, you could skate from the top down, and it was a gradual hill going down the whole way. So you could just pick up speed as
Nice.
you're going. And generally, you have enough time to see, because you would have to go through like the driveway and parking lot areas.
Right.
So if there was cars coming in and out, you had time to stop. But so I would, I wouldn't even like try to skate. I would allow gravity to just do the rest. I think I picked up a little bit, but then I would just let gravity take me the whole way down. Well, when I get to the field, it's still pretty far away from my aunt's house, but it's on the way there. And you know how like if you're rollerblading, you'll just skate and let yourself skate into the grass, and the grass will naturally just slow you down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it had just rained the day before or earlier that day, so the ground was not firm. And I'm skating. I don't know how fast it was. It was pretty damn fast though, for as much as like a 16 or 17-year-old kid. So I'm gonna guess anywhere. Like I'm a decent skater, so I'm gonna guess anywhere between 12 and 15 miles an hour, right? So it's a decent clip.
Decent speed, yeah.
Maybe 10. I'm not quite sure. I don't know how fast I could skate now, but I'm also out of shape. Anyway, so I'm going down at a pretty fast speed, and the moment my front wheels hit the grass, they sink in, and they dead stop. So my feet are completely planted, and the top half of my body is just going. So I'm
Flung
launching
forward.
in the air like Superman style. And that's when gym class kicked in. Tuck and roll. So
Tuck and roll.
So I tucked my head in. I kind of turned it into an arch. I tucked in, and so I landed right on the upper portion of my back. right? You know, my didn't hurt my head, didn't hurt my neck. It was right where you're supposed to land, on the upper portion of your back. And since
Yep.
I had so much momentum, I rolled. But I was going fast enough that I rolled, and it propelled me back up to standing. So I didn't mean to do it,
What?
and I just walked it off like I did.
Dude, you probably look so cool.
Yeah, man. You're way cooler than we. Oh my god, you're so cool, dude. Holy shit.
No, but I can't say that I did it on purpose.
No.
I,
You did. You definitely did it on purpose. Yeah, no, you did.
It was just one of those things where I'm like flying a bit, or I'm like, oh, this isn't good, and
That's
tucked,
hilarious.
and then I had enough momentum that it just propelled me right back up from
That's
laying
right out
on
of a
my
cartoon.
back. Yeah,
right out of a
I was so
cartoon.
surprised.
That's so
I
funny.
couldn't believe what just happened when I knew I was like a single teenager kid, so I'm like I walked it off. I'm like, I sure hope there was girls watching there.
Oh yeah, they were.
Heck yeah.
Oh my god.
But
I wish
That's where
I
I
was
tell my
that
friends,
cool.
it doesn't matter. We were.
Yeah. Nice.
oh my god. So anyway, with back to Tony Hawk. You know what? A perfect way to tie it in. Tony Hawk really did inspire a whole bunch of extreme action sports games. There was skating, there was BMX, there was razor scooters, and obviously encouraged a lot of kids to start skateboarding. So that's all I really had for. I mean, we got to tell a couple good anecdotes too, but that's all I really had in terms of history on it, at least that I can see right at the moment. But I guess the last thing I'll say before we kind of dive into the game in earnest is Tony Hawk, when this game started, when they greenlit the sequel to it, they offered Tony Hawk in lieu of royalties, in lieu of future royalties, a $500,000 check for he can't get royalties at all for the rest of the however long their contract is good for. He just got that $500,000 payment for all future royalties. I'm sure he would get paid for each game, but he wouldn't get royalties for each game. He turned it down, and it was the smartest decision he ever made financially. Because there's an amazing YouTube clip you can find. I don't know if you've seen it, Dave. He's on a podcast from like a year or two ago, and one of the podcasters asked him like, "How much money did you make off of this?" He's like, "Well, I don't. Even if I had the numbers in front of me, I wouldn't tell you, but I'll tell you this." Whereas like it was the third game had come out. They were all three of those games were still on top of the charts. They were top sellers, all of them. And I forget the amount that he said, but the producer of like Activision came up and just handed him a check for like $10 million or some shit like that. Like a fucking shitload of money. Like what a wild thing. Like, can you imagine? I can't even imagine $10 million.
I could barely imagine $100. Never mind that. I think in the documentary I was talking about, I think he sort of touches on that story, or they show a clip of him telling it or something like that. So he talks about it in that too. So it's kind of cool because it talks mainly about his skating career and him as a person and growing up and all that. Like most of it's about when he was younger, but he touches on the games and stuff. And like it's easy to forget how a game like this and a series like this, but especially when this first one hits, just how massive it really, really was. Like this was not your average sports game. This wasn't an NHL game. This wasn't Madden. This wasn't even FIFA. You know, like this was insanely huge. I don't have them in front of me. I could probably find rough average of how much it sold overseas, but as far as North America goes, I'm sure that's all this guy needed to make complete bank, is just what was sold in Canada, US, and Mexico. Like that's all he would need. That's all anyone would need, obviously. But like, it's just it kicked off, or at least reinvigorated a culture. And it's just a video game, quote unquote, just a video game. It's insane. It's insane.
Shoot, I actually brought up the clip too, and I missed the part where they have the money. I'll let it loop back and get back to it. But no, this game is huge. It's it changed his life. He constantly talks about how much the game just completely changed the direction of his career. And in fact, it wasn't even just him; it was so many different skaters. Bob Burnquist,
Mm-hmm.
who there was Jamie. What's the skater? Jamie something. I can't remember his last name.
Jamie Thomas.
Yeah, Jamie Thomas specifically stated like he was hesitant because Jamie Thomas in the documentary talks about how he was like a bit of a hipster about it. He's just like, like I don't know, this seems like selling out. I'm not sure if I want to be a part of this, but um, because of this, it reinvigorated his career. Bob Burnquist, Cabrera, what's his first name? Not Jamie. It's
Oh man, I have
It's
the
Who are
name.
you? Who are you talking about? What did you?
last name
who's-
of Cabrera.
He's not in the first one. There's Jeff Rowley, Elisa Steamer, Jamie Thomas, Chad Muska, Bucky Lassick, Rune Glifberg, Kareem Campbell, Bob Burnquist, and Tony Hawk. That's the first one.
Maybe it's the second. It's from the second one then. Never mind. But
Yeah.
but all of them talk about how it like reinvigorated that. Also,
Mm-hmm.
because of the inclusion of Alyssa Steamer, because she was in the
Yeah.
game, it inspired a lot of young girls to take up skateboarding because now they saw representation of themselves in a sport they didn't think they even could be involved in.
Right.
It like this game did everything. And side note, I found out the money. It was $4 million. They handed him a check for $4 million just straight up. So I'm actually surprised I was even only 6 million off. I thought it was going to be like 1 million or like 2. But the fact that it was actually 4 is just wild.
And the fact that Tony Hawk's son was also in the series. I don't remember. Was it the original game that he was an unlockable character, or was it a sequel?
No, it was later. I think
It was later because he was a
Yeah.
little kid. I don't know how
Yeah.
I don't know how old he is, but that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So you
That
had
is really cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, I think it might have been 3 or when they dropped the numbers and it was like underground or something like that. It was one of those ones, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's Pro Skater.
Is it the first one? As far as this one goes, I'm looking up. The secret skaters are Officer Dick and Private Carrera, and then everybody else was like, an actual pro skater and stuff. Did you guys have a favorite? Like, did it matter what they looked like, or was it always
Bobby
Tony
Byrne.
Hawk?
Anyone could do a backflip, in all honesty, because the backflip was the easiest special move to pull off, and you could. So actually, I have a question that kind of piggybacks off yours, and I'll get to it once Jiggy and you can answer like who your favorite skater was.
Right.
But for me, it was Bob Burnquist, or just anyone who could do backflip, or I think it was Rune Glifberg, but I can't remember. He did Christ Air, where he would like take the board out
Yes.
from underneath and hold. And
I love
like,
that
go
one.
across you.
I love
I think
that
it was
one.
Rune. I can't remember exactly who, but yeah, anyone who could do a backflip. What about you guys though?
It was probably Burnquist and I think Bucky Lassick. I'm pretty sure were the two that I always went to. I don't remember why, and I went to them too when I replayed it just in the last couple of weeks as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was the moves. I don't recall all of their moves or anything like that. But when you mentioned that move too, it kind of reminds me of I really love the SSX snowboarding series, and there is a character. There's a couple like moves that are similar to that are special moves. Those games, if you want arcadey, extreme sports, it's the best. They're the best. I think it was either Burnquist or Bucky Lassick. I think those are the two. It might have been Chad Muska, but I'm somewhere in there. Yeah, I bounced between a couple. I think.
I just went straight Hawk because
Yeah, you
I was
did.
like, I'm gonna be the best, But I did, when it came around for 3. I'm trying to find his name because I do not remember. I just know him by he wore a red shirt, and so I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Oh.
But that's when I finally made the switch because I always was just like Hawk. I'll just be Hawk. That's the name I
Yeah.
know. That's the one I want to be. But I will say that because I think you briefly said it, because when they went through like the whole Pro Skater series and then this spun off like they're not really sequels, but they're like the same but more, like Underground 2. I remember when we got to Underground 2, that to me was like the epitome of this skateboarding genre of games. Like just like Pro Skater did it,
Mhm.
defined it, was the OG, like really like made skateboarding games like mainstream. And then Underground 2 was like the culmination of everything, in my opinion. I just think
That
like
I'm always surprised to hear stuff like that, just because people always, it's kind of the same thing with like, people always revere the first 3 Sonic games, and then stuff after that is kind of looked down upon, but they have their fans. And it's the same thing with Tony Hawk. I feel like people revere the first 3, arguably, definitely first 2. First, a lot of people like the third one as well. And then the weirder ones that came, like Tony Hawk Ride, which most people don't like, but Tony Hawk Ride and Underground 2, like there's a lot of, you're not the only one, Jiggy. There's a lot of people that I have spoken to that really like the Underground series. Um,
I
Now,
mean, I just love you could customize characters like ridiculously, and you can make like stupid stuff. Like we used to make like Shrek, like we would
Yeah.
just like really stupid stuff. I just love it. It was
now,
cool.
my question for both of you guys: which types of tricks do you prefer? Kick tricks, excuse me, or grab tricks? I have my own answer. If you need me to vamp a little bit more for
Yeah,
you to
let's do
think,
it. Yeah.
grab 100%,
Okay.
because with a kick trick you can I always feel like it was less points, but if you grab, you could hold the grab and it
Yes.
would get more points, and then you could also spin at this. Now, just to be clear, I'm speaking strictly about Tony Hawk 1 since that's what this episode is on. I can't say how the point scoring system and whatnot works in Tony
Yeah.
Hawk 2, but in 1 at least, grab tricks were always my go-to because it was just so much easier to get higher points. And then specifically when you would play in like Chicago, like I had in the tournament, I had a whole setup for, because it always starts off, there's a grind rail right at the beginning.
Right in front.
So
Yeah.
you grind on that, then you hold, and then you spin. So when you fall, it counts as a half spin, and then you do a different grind, so it does a multiplier. You jump
Mm-hmm.
off the grind, you do either a kick flip or like an impossible, or like shove it, or any of those types of things. Then you go in the little ramp directly above it, do like a 720 of whatever grab you feel like onto the actual half pipe that's right next to it, so you get the gap bonus plus all the turns plus, and like instantly you get a ton of points like right off the bat. It's
Your
like 10,000
multiplier is
points.
just through the roof. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you're already in the yellow, so you can do specials.
Right.
So then what you do is you, depending on who you have, of course, you do a special, you land it, you do a special move. Then when you go back to the other side, which is facing the wall, maybe do another special move, do something else. And then when you're going back towards the side of the pipe where it's facing towards the rest of the inside of
Oh.
the place where the skate park is at in Chicago, you jump. You ever do this? You ever jump before you reach the top of the thing, so that way, and then you hold forward, so instead of going straight up,
You go over
you've
it. Yeah.
launched yourself straight
Mm-hmm.
forward. So you would do that over the half pipe. Then there's like there's a couple like boxes like with ramps that you can jump over or go up. There's a little mini half pipe that you can hit on the one side, or quarter pipe, I guess, that you can hit on the one side. And then you go back and you do the same thing back towards the half pipe, because the half pipe has like there's the half pipe, and on the outside of the half pipe there's a quarter pipe that's
Yeah.
leading up to it, if that makes sense. If you have enough speed and you launch yourself, you can grind on the rafters above in the warehouse, and that was an insane number of points. And then as soon as you do that and land it, you pretty much have the highest score possible for your run. You can end the run there, do it again, and then do it 2 times in a row. Don't do the third run because they always take the best of 2 anyway, and you win the competition.
Damn.
Dude, finding those like secret pathways that are not really like they're there, right? But if you grind up someplace and you can like break through like a window or something, and then you're in
Yep.
this like secret area. I lived for finding those. Those
Yes.
were amazing.
Yeah.
But in response to what you said, grabbing definitely, because I would always like to chain, like I would be on my grind, I would be grinding and I just chain moves together, and then I jump on the wall at the end and I do a jump off, and I'd flip the other way, maybe do a kick flip or something and try to rotate, land another grind, and then just do the same thing and just keep it going like back
Is
and
that
forth.
in one? I don't think you could do wall jumps like that.
I thought you could in one.
You could do
Yeah.
wall rides. You're right. You
Yeah,
can
you
do
do
wall
ride.
ride.
Yeah.
So I would just try to keep that kind of like momentum in like my little area, like whole map. I'd be like right here. This is where I'm at, just doing my thing.
Your little point.
Stacking up my points.
Your little point pocket.
Exactly. It's just you find what you're great at and you don't divert.
Why would
motto.
you? Yeah. I think
Don't diversify your portfolio. You just keep doing the same thing.
Yes.
Nice.
Do what you're good at. That's it.
Yeah, and literally just ride it. Just go for it.
And then explore, find some like tapes or something, or
find a tape or
letter.
like find an E or
All right,
something.
Dave, you say yours. I have something to say about the tapes.
Yeah, so I was going to say grabs. That was my first instinct, but I think I would go to the tricks, to the kicks and all that, because I think with the grabs I was never, and still am now as I replay it, I'm not good at the whole risk reward thing of like letting go in time. Like I definitely push it to the limit and it doesn't quite work, and I got to restart the stage and I want to restart my run, and it's probably just me not having the muscle memory for it like I used to and all those types of things. But I do like the kicks too, because when you're going from like I always really liked chaining grinds together. So if there was a level that, regardless of which one it is, that I could like just go from grind to grind to grind to grind, even if like they were really quick ones, I like that kind of multiplier. So for me, I would just do a quick, flip, whatever trick it was, kick flip or whatever it would be, in between each one, and that's how I would get my multiplier going. Not even necessarily like this epic sequence like you were describing before, which I wish I could pull that off at any point ever in my life, but probably not. I that's how I would do it. I would grind on top of the half pipe and then do the wall ride and then go on top of the pipe that was over there, or the boxes, or the ledge or whatever, and that's where I would do all the kick tricks. So I think that's probably why, is just because that's my I guess routine. Or what I felt like I was, like you were just saying, Jiggy, if you just do what you're good at. I felt like I was good at that. But if I grind it for too long, then I would fall because my multiplier kept going up and up, and then I would just tip over.
And when I said what I said, and as I heard you kind of say it back to me, I'm like, now what I'm realizing is because I was so dedicated to playing horse in multiplayer, like that's what you do. You have just a little bit of time, and you have to just land as many tricks as possible and try to get a higher score than your friend, right? And so that's where my mindset was. I was like, that's what I have to get good at, because that's where there's consequence. Like, I don't want to be the loser in this competition. So
that's fair. That completely makes sense. It is a slightly different way of approaching things, for sure. That I get that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always preferred the like the graffiti mini game, because instead of focusing on just like doing one massive trick or like doing the highest possible combo that you could, and with the whole horse thing, which always felt very stagnated to me, like it's very stop and go, versus graffiti, it was just this flowing thing of like, because you still have to get a lot of points, because you're for each obstacle that you see of another player, you have to beat their score to graffiti it for your own color, which was so cool, because it forced you to like, okay, I see that they somehow got a really high score on this one thing. How can I beat it? So it forced you to be really creative with the different obstacles and different ramps and different things that you could grind or jump off of, and this and that. I always really enjoyed graffiti and multiplayer, even though I was bad at it, and I get really competitive and I get really cranky when I lost, because I'm not. That's why I don't play games competitively, because I get way too into them and get way too cranky. It's not like a good kind of, how like some people get into them and they love, even if they lose, they just love the competition.
Right.
I get cranky. Yes. It's not. Nope. I recognize that it is a character flaw that I try to work on as much as possible, but there are certain games that I can't play because I'll just get too mad, and it's not the other person's fault. It's because I'm not good, and then I get mad that I'm not good.
The first stage is acceptance. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
What I was going to say too, I remember as a kid with the tapes, we were talking about all the different tapes.
Yeah.
First, I love the idea of finding the 5 different tapes in each level. You had to collect the 5 letters of skate to get a tape. You had to collect, there's always like some 5 objects that you had to break or destroy or knock down.
Yeah.
The boxes in the warehouse, grind 5 tables in the school,
tables, yeah.
destroy 5 mall signs. The mall
Yeah.
directories. In Minneapolis, it was 5 it's like 5
was
signs that
in
they're on the side of the road. I forget what it exactly is.
Yeah.
In Phoenix Downhill Jam, it was 5 valves. I'm amazed I remember all this.
Oh yeah, I was impressed that you were like reciting all these because I'm like trying to remember Downhill Jam. I was trying to specifically because that one, I don't know why that one was. Maybe it's just the way the levels laid out. That one I found to be probably the hardest
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah,
you have to
it is.
constantly go back uphill to like revisit that valve, find that valve. You have to grind. I remember one in particular. It's like there's a gap and there's a part up here where you have to grind, but you have to like go all the way around the loop, I
Mhm.
think. And so you have to get around the loop and then get this valve and then go. And that one always was hard, just getting up to that spot.
Getting
for
the
me.
momentum going. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it
that was
trickier
also
that
where
way.
the hidden tape was too, was up there.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Oh my god. Yeah, in Downhill Jam, fuck that level, dude. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
moments in it where it's like it's just absolutely, how can I describe this? So in the Downhill Jam, you have 5 valves, which are pretty, like, I actually like the layout of the level, but in terms of doing it in 2 minutes, I think is really difficult. Like, you always have
Yeah.
to do so many different tries. Because if you go past it, since it's downhill, it's a lot harder to get back to backtrack on the Downhill Jam. So, like, for example, the very first valve, you go down a hill and you have to jump off a ramp to the right, and there's 2 pipes that are literally parallel to each other. They go straight up, and then they turn a 90-degree angle to go totally horizontal. Then they do 90-degree angle down. Excuse me. And one of the valves is up top there. So unless you know that, it's like in other levels, since they're more flat, you can it allows you to explore. This one, it doesn't allow you to explore. You're essentially required to do the level 5 or 6 times and hope that you
Yeah.
can see it. And it's not really the most well designed level, in my opinion, for that. I think it's one of the most fun levels in terms of just kinetic motion, but in terms of applying the game's mechanics, the way they've taught you to so far, and the way they've tried to implement the collectibles and how to progress through the game, it's not a well designed level. Like, if they changed the objectives in it in some way, shape, or form to better suit the level, I think that would have been better. But like, the valves are annoying to get because if you miss it, it's hard to find. And specifically, there's the first one is tricky because it's kind of like, unless you go off a ramp and grind on a pipe, you're not going to even see it. It's because it's above you. Second valve is relatively easy. The third valve is there's a like a weird half pipe in the middle of the Downhill Jam, and there is a before you get to that half pipe, there's a ramp that you can either launch off of, or there's a pipe from the top of that ramp on the left side of the screen that goes over the half pipe to the top area on the right side of the half pipe. And that's where another valve is, which I don't think is the worst placement, because when you're skating, you can see it above you very clearly. Like, you don't, it's pretty easy to see. But the 4th and 5th valve, specifically the 4th, is a little tricky to get because it's at the top of a hill. It's at the top of a ramp that's almost impossible to get unless you've had all the momentum of going downhill already. Like, if you came to a full stop right before it, you're gonna have to go back uphill so you can get enough momentum to go downhill to get to it. And ideally, the way you're supposed to, like, if you're trying to do the Downhill Jam in one foul swoop, assuming you can get all the points for the high and pro score in that 2-minute run, you start off, you jump off the ramp to the right, jump, grind on the rail, you get your first valve. You then jump off another ramp shortly after that to get your first letter. You then jump off another ramp shortly after that to get, excuse me, your first your second valve, I want to say. Then there is a letter right before you get to the half pipe that I'm talking about. There is another ramp on the right side that if you jump up and grind on a pipe, you can get a letter. However, you're going to have to turn around and go back to go up the lamp on the left side right before the half pipe in there in order to get the other valve, which then you want to do that second because when you're on top of the half pipe, you can then basically jump over these gaps to kind of circle this almost like a drainage section of this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a drain. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to jump from one side to the other, all in the attempt to launch yourself high enough, like because essentially you're progressively getting a little bit higher each time you jump to the next platform, and all in the attempts that there's this big rocky pillar in the center of the drainage area where the secret hidden tape is. So you can launch yourself and hope that you make it to the right grind rail, because if you don't, you miss the secret tape and it's all for nothing anyway. And then when you land on that, it takes you down a big ramp, which will then launch you off to get that fourth valve, which if you jump too soon, you can miss. And it's very easy to jump too soon.
Yeah.
And then finally, the fifth valve is like kind of hidden on the side of a wall, which I don't know what it is with the last letter and the fifth valve in this level, because the fifth valve, excuse me, is on the side of a wall next to a hill, which is a little tricky to get, but it's not the worst. The fucking E in this level. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Do you know
I
where
do,
it's
because
at?
I did not get it. I was like, I'm not doing this.
You know how you're supposed to? I don't know how you're supposed to get it. You know how I got it?
How'd
Sure.
you get it?
So there is, in right where the E is at, there is not really a half pipe, but there's 2 quarter pipes on either side of this little area. And in the center part of that area, there's like a little water thing and a little bumpy ramp thing that's kind of obnoxious. Ideally, you want to ollie over it so that way it doesn't slow you down or you don't accidentally launch yourself off a ramp. Well, you build up enough momentum through that you go to the quarter pipe. Like if you're going downhill, like if you're facing downhill, it's the right quarter pipe on the far right corner of the quarter pipe, as far down as you can. You launch yourself up on that, and there's a rail at the top. You grind on the rail, which then. So this is why it's fun not to have realistic physics. You're completely like horizontal to the ground at this point, but as soon as you hit the grind button, you're perfectly vertical again, and you're grinding along the rail. And then you ollie off to the right, and now you can finally get the E. I love the idea of the Phoenix Downhill Jam, but it is fucking awful in execution.
Man, it's amazing how you can pinpoint where everything is. I'm literally looking at the stage in like a 3D model, like above of it.
Yeah,
and you almost have it exactly what, like, your head is just in this game, man. It's crazy.
I've played this game a lot.
I'm picturing it because I just played it. Maybe not to that detail, but I'm picturing what you're saying and following. But then, like, I'm also following your description of how you got everything. I'm like, holy crap, man! This guy's like, what? Wow.
Yeah, that was very detailed. Like, if somebody asked me to describe, somebody asked me to describe it, I'd be like, downhill jam. It's a bitch. Like, that's all I would have.
It's a real son of a bitch.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't think I got all the letters. I think I got frustrated and moved on.
I wanted to get through as many stages as possible, I think, is part of what it was as well. I wanted to make sure I got a good handle on a decent amount of them. And I think I got to most of them. I don't recall if I made it to streets or not. But I played a handful of times of each one, and I like the level design aside from the downhill one. Like, I like how everything's laid out. I found that I recognized some of the areas and went like, oh, yep, this is where like you said earlier, Jiggy, this is where I break the glass, and this is how I get up here.
Yeah, it's
things
cool.
like that. It's still there. I don't know why it's still there, but those little things of jumping a gap at a certain way or grinding and jumping into a new area, like a secret spot, somehow
And
I
there's
found them.
specific levels that have a lot more of that than others. Like I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like the school has a few, not a lot, but like I always think like the gym is kind of a cool discovery when you fall
yep,
into the gym.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but and then specifically, I would say the streets of San Francisco. There is so many hidden things in San Francisco.
it's big, it's
Um,
huge, right? Like
it's a
that's
huge
part of it,
area. Um, it's really really cool. I always loved that level, even though it was obnoxious because there was cars driving by. You'd always get
right?
hit. The
Yeah.
if you're trying and that one, you want to talk about fucking bullshit tapes. The secret tape on that one. Have you ever found the hidden tape, the secret tape in that one?
I
That
I
don't
one's
think I
honestly,
have
horrifying.
actually.
I'd be pretty confident in saying no, I haven't. It
All
would be
right,
my
so
guess.
this is some bullshit. And listeners, I know I'm swearing more than normal in this episode. I apologize, but
But it
this
just is.
I'm having a good time, y'all. This is how this is how you can tell. Not saying that I don't when I don't swear as much, but you know, anyway, over explaining. So the way to get the hidden tape in this, which side note, as a kid, I never realized that the tapes were called tapes because that's how skaters would like show off their moves. They would record VHS tapes
Yep.
and like so part of skater culture. So that's kind of a cool little nod
Yeah.
to skater culture.
Jackass,
Especially in the
baby.
90s. Yeah.
Exactly. So in the streets of San Francisco, the way it works, there is kind of like a town center. There's like a center of
With the
there's,
fountain and
there's a
stuff.
fountain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is a fountain. It's how can I describe this? It's near the fountain, sort of, but it's next to one of the roads. There is kind of this fountain. It's like right next to a building. It's kind of hard to explain, but I guess like from the starting point of the level, like if you go down that hill at the starting point of the level, down like the red sloped street with the green bushes and everything, to the
Yeah.
slightly to the left of it, there's a fountain kind of directly ahead of you, but you're facing the back wall of it. It's a perfectly flat back wall. The other half of it is the fountain. Yeah. So you want to actually go to the side of it. So like you're kind of parallel with the direction the fountain is going. You know, to the left side of you is like the fancy side of the fountain, and the right side is just a flat wall. You need to ollie on top of it because it's kind of a wavy hill. And when you get to the bottom of that wave, you go up and then you go down, and that gives you enough momentum to launch you off to a balcony on the building next to it. And then
Oh.
you keep going up the back, like you swerve around the corner, you ollie from one balcony over the gap to a balcony on the next one over, next building over. And you only have to do that, I think, once, maybe twice. I think it's only once because then there's ramps going up. And you follow the ramps all the way up the last building until you get to the top, and there's a ramp at the top. But the problem is that I don't quite know how to get the proper momentum to get it because there's a giant, almost looks like scaffolding. It's not, but it kind of looks a little bit like kind of reminds me of scaffolding, but it's this giant ramp on top of it where you actually have to go up even higher than the building actually is because the ramp goes up, and then it does another things where it dips down and it has a ramp
It
and you
launches you.
launches you off into the pagoda, into the glass ceiling of the pagoda that
Oh,
the
what?
secret tape is above, and that's how you're supposed to get it. It took me fucking
Dang.
forever
Get out
to
of
figure
here.
that out.
Yeah, jump between buildings. Why
Sure.
wouldn't you know that?
I hate that secret tape. All the others in San Francisco, there's a really fun route because like you have to grind on 5 cop cars, you have to find skate, and then obviously the high scores, and then the last one is the secret tape. There's a cop car right at the beginning. There's some skate letters. Like if you can optimize the cop car and skate route pretty easily, but to get that hidden tape, you have to do in one foul swoop. You have to do everything perfectly. And on top of that, if you're going too fast when you're ascending the building up the ramps, you will accident. Even if you don't ollie, you will launch yourself off of the building. So it's insult to injury, and it just makes me
Yeah.
so upset every single
Yeah.
time. I've never been able to do it well. Part of me hates it but part of me loves it because it's like it's a it fits into the definition of a secret tape. You have to explore the level and see where it takes you in order to find it. You don't need the secret tape in order to beat the game. It's just to get the extra, to get Officer
Mm-hmm.
Dick. So I kind of love it for that reason, where it really it's a test of all of your skills, how well you can
Yeah,
control your
yeah.
skateboarder, how well you can ollie, how well you can time your jumps. It's a really cool idea. It's just a little frustrating, but at the same time, it's still totally optional. So I'm kind of like, I think it's bullshit, but I think at the same time, it's a really cool test of your skill. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it.
It's stuff like that is kind of like I don't know if you guys have played Celeste at all, but
Love Celeste, one
yeah,
of my favorites.
it's amazing. But like all the little strawberries that you have to collect, they're optional.
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
optional, right? But they're really challenging. You have to do like this very perfect sequence. So something like that feels similar where yeah, it's not necessary to progress and you kind of have to do this perfect sequence. Sure, maybe it's not as tight, maybe the mechanics aren't quite, as sharp as they would be in a game like Celeste would be. Fair enough. It's not the same type of game either. But in a similar way, you get that feeling of like I know I can get this. It's a hell of a task to do it. It's going to take me a couple million tries probably, but when you hit it, you are through the roof kind of thing, And I like that in games for sure. It would be nice if, I mean, this is 1999 and 2000. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But, if this game was out now, like new now, and I don't remember if I found this in the 1 and 2 remake. I highly doubt I did. I'm sure it would feel less frustrating, but still just as rewarding. And I'm sure the layout of the level is pretty similar because from what I remember, the stages that I played in both of them felt very familiar. So I think you could probably, I bet if you picked up the remakes, you could probably pull this off if it was laid out in a very similar way. I bet you could do it.
I would say that the remakes are pretty accurate
Yeah.
to the originals. And I definitely did not find the tape. And now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna because I still I play it every once in a while. I just bring it up, and now I'm like I'm gonna go get that tape.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I should go and just get it. All I have to do is press install. It's right here on my library. So
Well, maybe after this recording session, you can do that. But I want to ask you guys now, and then we'll ask you this, then we'll start getting ready to wrap up because A, it is late. B, we're actually at a good length already. We're going for about an hour and 20 minutes. I'm pretty content with that for this.
nice.
So I want to ask both of you before we start getting ready to wrap up. What are your favorite levels in the first game? What is your personal favorite? Out of we've touched on a bunch of them, but which one really resonated with you?
I personally really like the mall and the skate park.
Talk about another shitty secret tape.
Oh, is it? I can't remember if I got it. I don't think definitely didn't get it this time. But I kind of like, there's something about the mall where and the skate park where the tighter space levels, which is also the warehouse, which was the first one. It's not a massive level. The smaller levels feel better to me. I find that the larger ones, Streets is somewhat of an example of that. School definitely feels like it feels too big. And I think because of only the 2-minute time frame, I feel like I'm only working against the clock rather than working and having fun doing the tricks or having fun picking up the skate or the tapes or grinding the tables or whatever it might be. Like I feel more rushed in a larger stage. So I like the smaller ones. The mall one isn't tiny or anything. It's not super small, but it still feels like a tighter experience. So I like those ones probably the best. Warehouse has this extra nostalgic feel because it's like the first Warehouse. It's a great layout and everything, but it's also like playing level 1 of all these games you would play over and over and over again. So there's a lot more muscle memory in that stage specifically than any other one. So that's kind of why I appreciate that. But as far as replaying this in the last few weeks, it was mall and the skate park. Yeah.
What about you, Jiggy?
So I would have to say that I do really love Warehouse just for the same reasons that you said. I like the small, confined space, but at the same time, I think the school is probably my favorite because
Okay.
I loved going through. I liked finding the gym, like you said.
Yeah.
I like just the variety of things you can do. Like I remember this one specific thing where you can launch over and you're riding on top of it's like an awning kind of a deal,
Yeah,
and you're
that's
like
actually what
riding
this
on top of
tape
it, and
is.
yeah, I
Oh, is
love
it?
that.
Okay.
And then you can go off, and there's railings that go down that are like the long staircases, and the railings are just like all the way
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Like I love that stuff. It's awesome, and it's got like the big area that you can just go in through and um big like I don't know if it's a pool or whatever it is, but
That
Yeah.
was always a
maybe it is
great
just.
spot to get
But
like to rack up points anywhere
Yeah.
there's just
yeah,
a pool or a half pipe or something like that.
yeah, it was just it had a good variety, and it's a little bit bigger, but it's not too big, and I felt like it's really dense for what it is. Like even though it's bigger, it's packed with stuff, and that's
Yep.
what I appreciated about it. And I just think it's cool. It's one of those that I really remember for sure.
Mhm.
Also starts off really cool because you're like up on a roof or whatever you are,
Yeah.
and you jump off
Yeah.
in that way. Like that's a really cool start to a level like that as well.
Mhm.
That would be so my go-to for getting like when I'm trying to do like single shot a level or something like that.
Mhm.
I will I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna play more Tony Hawk tonight, even though it's like past midnight and I need to go to
Ah.
bed.
Well, I'm definitely reinstalling the remakes. I am doing it.
Uh, but so you start off that awning, you jump off it, you do a Madonna because that was always a high number of points for when you spin. You grind when you land, so you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
nailing the
Yeah.
landing. Do a kickflip or shove it or impossible or whatever it is. Off of that, there's a quarter pipe directly in front of you. By then, your special bar should be up. Do a backflip or do whatever special move you want to. Then, so right there, that move, you generally get the highest score immediately. Like
Right.
you're there. Then you turn to the right. There is a handrail and there's steps in a handrail. You grind down the steps, you get your first letter, you do a kick flip to the left, and you grind on the stone so that way you get the gap transfer plus all this extra stuff. By then you're already close to the pro score. And then there's to your left, immediately to your left is your first table you can grind on. You jump over the gap to get the K. Then you there's a shortly after that on like one of the weird triangle grind things on the right side. Then there's another table you can grind on. Right after that, you hop to the left before there's like this weird half pipe hallway, and you get your third table right there. Go down the half pipe hallway. You don't have to worry about points at this point because you've already you've
You're
already
there.
done what you
Yeah.
need to do. There is the T. Oh no, sorry. The T is in one of the is in one of those like half pipe quarter pipe things on the right side. Then there's the E. The fourth, there's the E in the middle of the two pools. There's the fourth table on the top or like top left of the pool, like it's a little bit to the left. Then you go up the hill. You get your fifth and final table at the top of the hill, and then you bank to the right to go up above the gymnasium, which is where you can get on top of the building onto that awning, which Jiggy was talking about. Launch off, and you get your hidden tape, and bam, 5 tapes for you and all that.
Wild.
I'm telling you, man, I have played. I I didn't. It's funny. I didn't realize how much of a geek I was for this game until what we recorded this. Where I'm like, I didn't realize how much I had committed this game to memory. I
Mhm.
genuinely did not until we recorded this. It's wild. Um, Anyway, I think that's a good place for us to wrap up. Though we'll get some final thoughts in this game, and then I can send you both off into. Well, I was going to say this fine evening, but it's more like this early morning, past midnight when we're recording
You
That's
can
this.
fine.
send us to sleep to work in the
Yeah,
morning.
seriously.
Oh,
We're all
no.
3 of us waking up at the crack of dawn.
Oh
It's gonna
no.
be the worst decision we made. Well, I forced you to make. But no, thank you both so much for joining me. This was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, a lot of
So
fun, man.
I want to wrap this up by just final thoughts. What has this like? What are your final thoughts in the game? How has it held up all these years later? And do you still enjoy playing it? Dave, we are going to start with you. Your final thoughts on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yeah, I think for the most part it does hold up. I mean, like you said when we first started talking about the game, the simplified or simplistic. It kind of sounds like a negative term, but really the simplicity of the game and how you can just sort of move around the levels and all of that, I think really allows this game to continue to live on and still play well. Like, the remakes are great and everything, but I don't think they're necessary either. It's cool because they're revamped. Yeah, the mechanics are a little bit tighter and whatever, but you're still gonna have a great time playing this. I think that this game still is 100% worth your time. And if you are listening to this and somehow you've never played a Tony Hawk game, I don't know, maybe you're too young. I don't know what it is, but play this game. It's excellent. It's difficult. It can be frustrating. It can be tricky to get used to the momentum and things like that. But all of that is just part of the engine, how the game works, how it feels. And believe me, once you get a little bit of like a routine going, even if it's not perfect, you're going to have a good time and it's going to give you that feel. And that's all you want from this game. And it still delivers, I think. Whether you're playing it on PlayStation, Dreamcast, 64, all of them will work in a very similar way. Partially because of the controls and because the engine is largely runs the same way. But yeah, it's 100% worth playing and picking up again. And I'm really happy we got to play it again. So yeah.
All right,
Cool.
Jiggy, what about you?
So I would say, going from the perspective of playing the original on the N64 and then playing the remakes on PS5. Okay, so way like generational spread of several generations at this point. What is that? 4 generations of console.
Yeah.
And honestly, the only thing that feels different is the graphics. I can't say that the gameplay particularly feels different. Like, it feels exactly how I remember it, even with a different controller somehow. I don't know, which I think is a huge testament to how they got that gameplay right. I mean, it really is solid. And even going through like the history of skateboarding games, because I didn't just play Pro Skater, I played Underground. Like I said, Underground 2 is like, I still think that's the pinnacle, but that came from Pro Skater. That's still Tony Hawk. That came from that. But then on top of that, you have games like Skate, which offer kind of a more realistic, I guess, like physics engine and things like that.
Yeah, the physics are real. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, and the gameplay's, it's cool. They're cool. They're different though. And there's just something magical about the simplicity of Pro Skater and just the way you can get in and you play with a couple buttons, but there's so much you can do with those couple of buttons. And it's kind of like the Smash Bros effect of fighting games, how you want to use the stick in different directions, but you really fundamentally use like 2 buttons, right? So you use a few buttons, but you do different directions, they do different things, and it feels like you have this huge arsenal of tricks, and the whole like balance mechanic and things like that give you different variety of challenges, and just the versatility of grinding, half pipes, kick flips, grabbing, manuals, like ollies, like every little element works cohesively together, and it's super cool, and it's so much fun to go back to and play even to today. Like, they hold up super well. And I know I said everything culminates in Tony Hawk's Underground 2, but I'm actually going to change my mind on that, and I'm going to say everything culminates in Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure.
Whoa. Okay.
Well, it's Pro Skater, but you can play as Timon and Pumbaa.
Oh, actually, you know what?
That's you asked for.
Yeah, that sounds pretty damn good. You're onto something.
It is worth noting I don't believe there were manuals in this first game, but in the second one there definitely was, and it's crazy to think like how perfect this first game feels, and they could still add so much in Tony Hawk 2, which that's a different topic. It's a different game for a different episode.
So they put manuals. That's where I was getting that. They put manuals in the remake. If you play the first game, you still have access to all those things. So that's why I said that. So
makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, that'll do it, guys. That's it for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Thank you both so much for joining me on this episode. This was a wonderful conversation about apparently, now that I record this, apparently one of my favorite games. So
You didn't even know.
I didn't realize how much I have this shit memorized. So I want to throw it over to you both to see where my listeners can find you. So Jiggy, we're going to start off with you. Where can the good people find you online, and is there anything you'd like to promote?
Okay, yeah. So I would say go, and I realize I said I would say like 20 times, so it doesn't need to be pointed out. I'm just saying. But you can find all of my content and any of my socials. Just go to my YouTube. Just go on YouTube, search Jiggy Lookback. You'll find me. I make lots of retro gaming content. I analyze old video games, talk about it's not a conversation like this, but I definitely analyze all the graphics, the sound effects, music, everything. And I make videos overthinking about stupid items and characters and games and things like that. It's a lot of fun. Got a great community building over there. So go check it out, and links to all my other socials on there. But yeah, go Jiggy Lookback on YouTube. And yeah, it's cool.
Really,
All
really
right.
slick looking videos too, by the way. So just if anyone's good
Well,
stuff,
thank
man. He kicks ass with the videos themselves.
I actually just subscribed to you, so and while we've been recording, so yeah.
Word.
Um,
Thanks.
There you go. Dave, what about you? Where can the good people find you online, and what would you like to promote?
I mean, Jiggy is a constant on Remember 64, so you can also find him there quite a bit. But yeah, Remember 64. All social media will be at Remember 64 Show, so that's the easiest way to find it there. But Remember 64 itself is a journey through every single game, whether we like it or not, of the Nintendo 64. So the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between, I like to say. Yeah, we're just going game by game, having discussions similar to this. A lot of really good stuff that we've done so far, including Majora's Mask that Jiggy was on, Donkey Kong 64. We've done, Shadows of the Empire. We've done some classics like Mario 64 already, but all the little guys in between, whether they're good, bad, ugly, yourself, you're going to be there for the Toy Story 2 episode. So there's lots to talk about, and having some special guests, whether it's fellow podcasters or whether it's other people that are, experts, I would say, is sort of how we're trying to expand the show as well. But it's been a lot of fun to explore a console that I love, but also still I keep surprising myself that I played so little of this library. So it's an exploration for me as well.
And I gotta say, the Remember 64 show is getting into the territory where the big games are kind of covered. I mean, there's still a couple to go over,
Right.
but we're kind of getting into the more like obscure, like you just said an episode that was Mischief Makers. That's
Yep.
a little more obscure, and we're getting more into the deep dive. Like I'm not gonna say bad games on the 64, but I'm definitely like we're getting into the territory of. We talked about Mario 64. We talked about Majora's Mask. We talked about the big ones that everybody knows and loves. Now it's getting into let's talk about the ones that nobody knows about, and there's a good reason why they probably don't know about them.
Let's
which
talk
is
about
really exciting.
Yeah, let's talk about the weird shit. Like that's I find that exciting. But there's also a decent amount of sort of mid-level popularity titles that I still never played. Somehow, we'll discuss this on the episode that you're on, Josh, but I never played Toy Story. Why didn't I play it? I don't know. We talk about it, things like that. So it's really fun to go through it. So yeah, Remember 64 is on all the podcast apps, and if pretty much every single social media app is at Remember 64 Show, including YouTube as well. Sometimes there's short videos on there. They're clips from the podcast. Other times I just throw up longer videos of me playing some of the games, because I'm like, here, I'm spending all the time playing these games. Let's just take a look as well. You guys can find it as well. Things like that. So just sort of experimenting. Not quite to the level that Jiggy can do, but hey, it's there. So if anyone wants to see it, also Remember 64 Show. So yeah, anyways, that's my long-winded way of saying that's the show.
And as usual for me, everyone, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I refuse to call it the other thing. It is still Twitter to me. At Still Loading Pod on all of them. Twitch at Still Loading Pod, Blue Sky at Still Loading Pod, and Threads at Still Loading Pod, all that good stuff. If you want to support the show, you can do so in a number of ways. You can give it a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy and hopefully pleases the algorithm gods as they shine their non-objective light upon me, and we'll see how that works. But it's either way makes me feel warm and fuzzy. If you want to support the show monetarily, you can go to patreon.com/stillloadingpod, and for $1 a month you will get all the episodes a few days earlier at better audio quality, as well as access to patron voting rights. You get every quarter I send a poll out to my patrons to help guide the direction of my show. And I don't know when this episode's going to come out, but I believe that the next one will not be happening yet. The most recent one, Epic Mickey won, and I'm playing my way through the first Epic
Heck
Mickey
yeah.
game. I'm very excited for that. I already got a cool guest lined up for it too. It's going to be exciting. So that's at the $1 level. At the $4 level, you'll get everything I mentioned prior, plus 2 bonus episodes every month, which covers a variety of topics like if you ever wondered what the Gamer 5 portable handheld system is, what, you've never heard of it? It has 220 games in it all in one. So of course we got to cover all 220 games, and what better? I mean, who doesn't want to discuss classics like Curly Monkey and Curly Monkey 2 and
Just classics,
other such
And
instant
Curly Monkey
classics.
3?
Other
three.
other monkey and hair descriptors.
And then of course whatever else, retro magazine reviews, some fun stuff like that. And then for $5 a month you'll get everything at the previous 2 tiers, plus access to Still Bonding. It's a James Bond podcast where me and a bunch of friends bond over 007. Probably around the time this comes out we'll be, let's see, this is August. We're recording this in August. This will probably be out sometime in September. So I hate saying the name of this movie because it makes me uncomfortable, but we are going to be covering Octopussy in September.
Oh, yes.
That's going to be fun, question mark. That's Still Bonding at the $5 level over on patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And of course, the most important shout out is the Bit by Bit Foundation. The Bit by Bit Foundation is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to put video games and video game consoles in the hands of kids receiving inpatient care in hospitals. It gives them something to play while they're getting their treatments done. So if you want to support them, go to bitbybitfoundation.org and consider donating. That is all the time I have for you on this episode of Still Loading. Thank you all for joining me. Gentlemen, thank you once again for hopping on.
You bet.
Absolutely happy to be here.
Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time.
Yeah.